Welcome to the D Do Business podcast by RLC with your hosts Dave Evans and Debbie Halls-Evans, where they meet each week with guests and discover ways you can help yourself and others become best version businesses, teams, and people.
This is D Do Business, Debbie. We are back by ourselves today.
We are by ourselves. That was a nice move forward. We're now sat in the new office come library, which is nice because the setup's easier, particularly for podcasts as well, because we're like sat facing each other for a change.
So we can actually have a conversation.
Yeah, which is actually really pertinent because this podcast is all about how do we change the conversations.
Well, can I do a quick advert, Debbie?
Go for it.
So many of you might know who's listening to this that every week we go Facebook Live talking to some of our friends, clients, and associates in the US. We've started Consultervations, so you can get business advice direct from real people doing business today. So that'll be out on Apple Podcasts in about 6-7 weeks.
It will, and also it is on Spotify and it is on Google Podcasts as of now.
And I know Barb always gets really encouraged, Debbie.
That's Barb Gay from Denver.
Yeah, and so just tune in to listen to the magnificent Barb Gay closing book on the points she likes to make. Anyway, today, Consultervation's the thread, Debbie, because we want to talk about conversations in business, don't we?
But we want to talk about the conversations that aren't being had, the real conversations that aren't being had.
And I read an article this morning that was shared by some of our network on LinkedIn about all the subheadings of difference, right? So inclusivity, diversity, how many are there? These labels.
Are we talking about isms?
Isms, yeah.
Isms.
And one of the things that's not talked about very much at the moment is ageism. So an aging workforce and people in their 50s finding it difficult to get work. It's the article I was reading, right? And whilst I appreciated the article, I found myself getting a little bit sick and tired of it because we're obsessed with the minority. And let me be clear, I'm not saying that we shouldn't ever be obsessed with the minority. What I find is we bundle all these things together, all these different isms, and I think it's time for business to learn a new language because I think tomorrow's business is going to need a new language, Debbie.
Right, so I just need to clarify because I know we have lots of conversations that aren't recorded via podcast. And I think the difference here is that for us, this is not about ignoring minorities. This is, and I think I put it in the context of there are so many ways that we are different, that embracing the difference is what we need to do. And it's actually putting the human before the label. And we're falling very, very prone to labels. Whereas we have to start getting better at understanding different cultures, understanding different types of people, different ways that people think, behave, act, etc. And I think that to me is the real conversation. And people don't do it because they're either driven by lots of different reasons, whether it be a corporate challenge or whether it be an individual challenge. I wrote down in my very comprehensive notes, which is a complete bluff because there's like one sentence. But I think that we avoid these real conversations because they're difficult, they're uncomfortable, we feel challenged. It's our perception of our own reality versus our emotional state, our biases and our environment. So therefore, it's easy to have an ism against something. It's easy to be against somebody. You said something about NLP and I thought it was brilliant.
I'll come to that in a second. The other thing, Debbie, is that people get caught up in the other person's response.
So the emotional side.
Let's look at you and I, right? You pull more faces than all the clock faces in the world, right? In just a 5 minutes stretch. Isn't that true?
It's because I'm just highly expressive.
Whereas I'm a frowner. So I look aggressive, right? When I'm not aggressive. When I concentrate, I look aggressive. When I'm having a good time, I look aggressive. But we get lost in the other person's appearance. And we assume or presume what that person's facial expression might actually mean. And then what we do is, depending on what it looks like, people seem to step back, reverse, withdraw. And one of the things that you've been reading about, that you've been educating me on, that's true, isn't it?
Yes.
Is about stepping towards, going through, even, let's be clear. Recently, do you remember John and Leanne were here, my brother and his wife, and you and I were debating the 10x point. 10x this and
which
10x
I'm really
that,
passionate about because
right?
I just think it's a load of hoo-ha and dog poo.
Yeah.
And I get really, I get irate, but it's the way that I express my perspective and my view. I'm not angry at any individual or you, but it comes across as it's quite a heated discussion.
Yeah, and I stepped towards you, despite you being and by the way, just if you listen to this, I didn't actually physically step towards Debbie.
Yes.
In conversational terms, I carried on knowing that you wanted me to finish the conversation, even if there was part of you that wanted to withdraw. You nearly did, but then you stayed the course. And it's learning to stay the course in a conversation. It's hard, but actually we often misplay or misrepresent the sounds, the tone, the volume, the cadence of the other person because we've assumed what they mean. We don't know.
Yeah, and I agree. And I think there's loads of things that go around this. So we've been talking, I think for the past 5 or 6 years about inclusivity has now become exclusive. And that's actually a massive issue. And I'll drop the infographic in there for people to have a look at. But it's actually really dangerous to start focusing on a minority because then you exclude them. This is about being aware of them. So, and I think the other side of that for us is, I'm a white female, middle class, middle-aged white female, and anybody could charge me and say, you don't know what it's like to make a decision about this, etc.
Yep.
The other element for that for me was as well as diversity to me is perspective, and it's lack of perspective. And it's been sold and pitched in all different ways. And one of the biggest lessons that I've learned recently is I read the book White Supremacy. And it's an incredible book. It's hugely powerful. It's a very difficult book to read. But it's just incredibly raw in regards to is how we as the individual are behaving. And I explained to one of your clients, when they said, oh, I'm not a racist. So I said, my understanding, and again, it's all evolving because to be an anti-racist per se, you have, not per se, specifically, it's a life journey. It's not like I'm going to do a bit of study and look at me, I'm suddenly all knowledgeable. It's a continuous cycle of learning. But one of the things is, if you have never made a decision that involves your race specifically, so let's talk about Black Lives Matters, or if you've never had to make a decision about your gender, then you're not a sexist. If you've never had to make a decision about your religion or your politics, that is actually going to affect. We do apologise, the dogs.
And apologies, okay. It's more about I think it interrupted your sequence. The dog, because you laughed, which is the dog sneezing.
Oh,
when you were saying,
serious point. I wasn't laughing at the serious point, but I think the difference is.
Repeat. If you've not had to make a decision based on your
race, okay. So therefore, you are acting as a racist, whether you like it or not. That you are never in that position. You can't say. So it's having a knowledge of perspective that somebody else is making that decision. If I have a specific sexual gender, that's got nothing to do with anybody else. But secondly, if I'm having to make decisions around that, and if I've never had to make a decision about my gender, therefore I could, without realizing, be making sexist comments, remarks, behaviors, responses. So diversity to me is perspective. And it's not about undermining any minority, which I think somebody could have kind of listened to that at the beginning. It is more about us getting better at understanding. It's what you said about changing this whole way we communicate and the consultervations and the things that we do. Sorry.
I know. You were in a poetic license of free flow. I agree, Debbie, and I was going to just loop it straight back to, as an open loop, the point earlier, which was business needs a new language.
Yeah, I agree.
The world needs a new language, and that world language is one of the toughest and easiest things. I think the world needs to embrace more love in it, and more love of other people.
But I think, again, for me, that is, people then go and see that, oh, it's all fluffy, it's all avoidance. And that's what happens. They fall into this chasm of avoidance. And what Dave's having a really difficult conversation with me right now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go, yeah, I can see that's really important to you. Change the subject. Therefore, I'm not being diverse. I'm not being inclusive. I'm not being aware. And I'm having a really crap conversation because I've already gone off on my own agenda.
I agree. This business world, the new language, it's a bit like how would I contrast it, Debbie? 5 years ago, maybe a bit longer, people would not have ever understood having customer service departments built on web chat, right?
I agree. Yeah.
And uh, any good web chat training course would be focused on matching language, matching even text speak.
Yep.
And who would have thought 10 years ago we'd be suggesting that there would be a training process to teach people to match text talk on a web chat customer service program where there's no voice, right? Bots can do that too now. So technology is forcing a change of language. As humans, it's time for us to improve our language in the workplace.
But is that not the challenge then? So we allow AI, robots, bots, because actually behind that is somebody's written a script, somebody's written the answers. It's all pre-done. It's all responsive to a specific algorithm, etc. But that's all self-created. We've got to, we all talk about, these algorithms are taking over the world. We've created them.
Yeah, that's true.
But I think for me, the most important part is that we allow ourselves to avoid these things. Because guess what? Ultimately, that's what that little bot does. It doesn't actually deal with emotion or feelings or bias, or it literally just takes every single word written and responds directly to the specific words. So therefore, it's not even got any bias whatsoever, because it's just saying, so if I said to you, I'm dissatisfied about my service, the algorithm behind that looks at the word dissatisfied. How can I help you? What is it I can do to make you happy? That's literally what it will do. That's how it will respond. We don't do that as humans. We avoid it. We act out over it.
And that's why this NLP clue, I think, is worth exploring with you today on this podcast, because it might help you see things in a different perspective, like Debbie's been talking about. Now, in the world of neuro-linguistic programming, and if you're wondering what that is, neuro is your, Debbie?
Brain.
Correct. Linguistic is your?
Language, my most favourite, or your words specifically.
And program?
Program is the way you do things, a process.
Yeah, patterns of behaviour, sequences, things you repeat. Now, the thing about this, in it, there is something called a meta program. Now, meta in the Greek means above, right? So, it does. It says overarching, right? So the program is an actual default response. So I'll give you a classic psychology example, right? So classic psychology is flight or fight.
Okay.
Right. So that's a program. So neither are right or wrong, are they?
No.
It's just your response system, right? What are you, Debbie? Do you know? Are you a flight or a fight?
I'm a fighter.
Right. So in danger, you'll go towards.
Yeah, always.
Yeah.
I'm much better in a
crisis.
crisis.
Have you ever felt like flight, like flitting?
Pretty nearly every day, yeah.
Okay. So
yes, but I do push myself forward.
But it's here's another one: pain or reward as a motivational program. Are you motivated towards pain, to avoid pain or to have pain, or are you motivated towards reward? What is it?
Well, you see, I'm not motivated by either of those.
No,
things,
I'm not either. No. So it was really interesting, because when I asked that, I've had friends try to motivate me with that one, right? Dave will be one or the other. And actually, they had to take pain to another level. My pain is letting somebody down, not a direct.
So it's still a pain, isn't it?
It is still a pain.
Okay.
It's a second layer.
It's a definition of pain.
So in the middle of all of this, there's a specific set of programs that I think are really simple to understand. And they're filters we can actively choose to use. And they're built around two words: same and
different.
Correct. Now, when we coach this, we always like to talk about food. Debbie and I just like food, don't we, Debbie?
We love food.
We love food. So we talk about it in a way where if you're going to a restaurant, do you go to the same restaurant?
No.
Okay.
We don't. Well, we'd like to go to more restaurants right now.
Debbie, we'll apply this to ourselves next.
All right.
Right?
Yes.
So do you go to the same restaurant, or do you go to a different restaurant?
Different restaurants.
When you go to the different restaurant, let's say you understand the menu, do you order the same?
No.
Or do you order different? We're not applying it to you, Debbie.
All right. Okay,
right?
sorry.
Just to be clear.
All
We're
right.
just asking
just
the
getting
question.
Involved.
I know. That's right. Right? You're doing that. You're fighting, aren't you? You're moving towards.
Anyway.
Or let's say now you go to a British pub bistro,
Mm-hmm.
right? It could be any brand, but it is a pub bistro of a certain standard, right? Do you order same or different?
This is rhetorical now.
No, I'm now asking
Oh,
you.
right, you are. I always order different. You always order the same, which is pie.
Well, yeah, but it's a program. So I like a classic British pub pie,
Right.
right? Where was that one we went to down in Cheshire?
Oh, that was great.
That'll
as
come
well.
back to us. Something,
Yeah, well,
the pig and pie or something.
yeah,
No.
it wasn't the
It's
pig
funny,
and pie.
funny
You know,
name.
thinking of it.
But
Pies.
it was an awesome pie because it was a real pie. We'll come back to that.
Right, a real pie, just as definition, complete tangent, is a real pie is pastry top and bottom. That to Dave is a definition. So anybody who makes him or chooses to make him a pie, one, it has to be stacked full of meats and etc. But it has to have top and bottom pastry.
And jus, Debbie.
And jus, gravy.
Plenty of jus.
Yeah.
Now, see, that's right. It's your fault. Taking me to places where they write jus on the menu, right? So
we digress. So let's go back.
Now,
NLP, we're talking about same and different.
Meta programs, which are default motivational programs or just behavioral programs that you have.
Yes.
Right? So let's change the genre of food. So now you're going for an Indian.
Right? Oh, right, okay.
Do you go same?
Well, yes, we go to Dishoom if we can. Yes.
Yeah, Dishoom, I hope you're listening to this.
Yes.
Anyone who works at Dishoom,
I'll tag you just in case.
Your food is sensational.
It's amazing.
But when you go to Dishoom, do you order same or different?
Oh no, I do order different.
Yeah, I think I do a bit of both.
Yeah.
Although I do like the same. I mean, having what's that thing I like? Fried okra.
Yes.
Dishoom does fried okra, and I always, whenever I have fried okra, I always think of Vince Howard's mother, Vivian, who introduced me to that. It was extraordinary over in Florida, along with deep fried crocodile, which was interesting.
That's the different. Move on.
Now, same difference or different same. I'm going to list them to you. So if you're listening to this, just think them through or write them down, right? The way you write it down is like this. Same, different, different, same.
Right, I've written it down.
Right?
Yep.
And also different.
Okay. So it could even be one of my lovely matrices.
It could be. And the thing about this, right? If you were using this as a filter, what we do as humans, I think, Debbie, accidentally, often not really intentionally, depending on what the ism is that we've been talking about earlier in the show, is we go to dislike far too quickly. And if we feel like we dislike something, and then we get uncomfortable, guess what you think we do? We don't stay present.
No, we disconnect.
We withdraw, disconnect, distracted, not listening anymore, and we miss things. And that's where some of these isms then are given space to breathe.
Yeah.
So what we're asking you to do today in our wonderful Double D Do business is to think about how can you use this to help you look for same and different, look for same, look for
different, same,
and look for
different.
Because it's okay to be different. One of the most inspirational things that I took from 2019, and there were plenty of things, given to how much of an absolute car crash 2020's been around the world.
Well,
we've had a brilliant year, but generally
that's the difference, you see.
Right. It is a difference.
So use that as your example.
I will in a second.
Okay.
But I also want to recognise anyone who can't pay their bills today.
I understand.
Anyone whose business is closed. We can't say this year's been good, right? They've had a terrible time and we'll have to recover from that. So what 2019, the thing I remembered the most, was going to that event in Oxford at Soho Farms. We sound like an advertising thing today, don't we?
Yeah,
GQ, the Heroes Awards. And we saw Mark Jacobs. Is that his name? The blood thing.
No.
What was his name?
The artist.
The artist, yeah.
All right, okay. Well, now you put me on the spot.
Mark something. We'll put it in the footnotes.
Yeah, I will do. He's amazing.
And the cubes, there's those 2 cubes of blood on display of 2,500 Western people and 2,500 immigrants. And both are filled with blood. And the message is we bleed the same way on the inside. We're the same.
Mm-hmm.
And our heart today, and I don't mind if you call this fluffy, because that's different, right? Or same. We're asking you to realize that human life is a valuable life. wherever you're from, whatever you choose to be.
Yeah.
And and that's why when I read that article, Debbie, and we started talking about this, I think it was time for us to stop and say, we need to find a new language in business. Now, usually when we come up with things like this, we can sit here at RLC and say, hey, we've thought about this. But I don't think there's an answer to this yet.
No, because I think so. There's a complexity to it, and I think the biggest thing that I've learned is that we have to be ready to understand somebody else's views, values, understanding, and just getting our head round. And I'm going to go back to the anti-racist thing because it's the one that I'm learning the most right now. But for me, is that we can't say I'm not a racist if we are not making choices that are based on our race. Really important. So start considering that. The other thing as well is to say I'm not racist because I know somebody who's black. It doesn't mean anything because we are not them. So therefore it becomes what you've just said about we are the same but different. And those differences are really important. And it's not to dismiss them or think that oh, well, yeah, I really accept that's your way of thinking. No, because that's just a statement. There is no learning or depth or context to it. So ask and be more curious. Why did you make that choice? I've been really blessed that I've met some incredible people. And one of the people that we met was in Mallorca. And I'm sure that she won't mind me mentioning it, but their daughter has moved over to Dundee. She's transgender, an incredible woman, absolutely fantastic. And we went out for lunch. And I literally just fired questions at Lou. I was just firing them away. And I asked it, was this okay? Because I have to ask permission first. Again, another learning in any of these conversations. You ask permission first. But once you start being curious, that other person feels comfortable. They want to tell you their story. And then instantly you're learning. So everybody benefits. It doesn't mean that I wasn't uncomfortable. It doesn't mean that I wasn't challenged. It doesn't mean that I wasn't questioning some of my own biases. But what it does mean is you walk away with a deeper understanding of human connection. Yeah. You have a deeper understanding, you say, of same blood, but there are differences and we don't recognize those differences. We make these gargantuous generic statements and we've got to stop doing that.
Agreed. And one more recap on the same, different, same, different. People go on holiday, right? Yeah. And they'll go to some of the most beautiful places on the planet. Yeah. And go down to the promenade and order pizza.
Yeah.
Right. And I'll never forget that trip to Beirut. And I'm in the hotel, and I looked outside, and there was a miracle. There was a Nando's next door. And I'm thinking, I'll go to Nando's. And you said to me, and no one said,
I was really annoyed with you.
Don't you dare go back to the hotel lobby and ask, where do the locals go?
Yeah.
And I ventured out and went to a small little cafe restaurant and had sweet and sour chicken that smelt disgusting, but tasted divine.
Yeah.
And I don't know what they did. I was completely well afterwards.
I think it was the sourness that you smelled.
Totally, that was putting me off. But having the courage to taste and see in a food example is often the first step. And having that, as you said, that curiosity, Debbie, to move towards, find out and think about to see what might happen next. Now, we're going to bring this episode to a close. We're asking the question, which is, what is the language we're going to need in business tomorrow? I don't know the answer yet, but let me put this question in your mind for as we wrap up this podcast. Imagine being a 12-year-old today or younger, going to school and stepping into education, and have a think about how they are equipped to process isms in a world where they spend most of their time engaged in technology, in engagement with systems that are designed to demand their attention. If we as adults, fully grown adults of varying degrees of experience, can't work it out, how on earth can we expect our children to get it right? Or is it, Debbie, that they might just show us the way because they usually do?
Well, and my only other how and fact check, conscious of time, is, are you making an emotional response? Are you connecting to any biases that you have been brought up with or that you have and carry with you? And is your environment, therefore your social circle, creating your responses? And if those three are really great ways to just quickly connect back to is, am I, and fact check, that is FACT, everything that you are saying.
Well, you've been listening to Double D Do Business. Today, we've been talking about consultervations, conversations in the workplace, and a need for a new language in business in the future. If you need any help with anything that you've been listening to, get in touch with us as you listen to the jingle play out. There'll be tags and ways that you can talk to us directly. Hope this has stimulated your thinking as we all move towards every success with our learning.
You've been listening to the Double D Do Business podcast, brought to you by RLC and sponsored by CoachPad, the coaching tool built for you by coaches for coaches. If you would like any assistance or help for what you've heard today, please feel free to get in touch with us at info@rlc-global.com. That's info@rlc-global.com. And we would be delighted to hear from you. Wishing you every success with your learning.